Chelsea Football Club is in tatters according to the Athletic, with the boardroom apparently being in dismay. Todd Boehly versus Clearlake has taken another level, and now the Athletic has decided it's their turn to give details. Furthermore, Mikel has to have his input on the Victor Osimhen deal, and I can't lie to you lot, it's very interesting, it's very informative, and at the end of the video I'll give you the full link so you can go and watch the half-an-hour long interview that Mikel goes into detail about how the Victor Osimhen deal broke down. And I can't lie to you, only at Chelsea does a former player come out with so much knowledge, so much evidence, and so much detail. One thing I'm going to say is I actually am proud of Mikel this time. Normally I say he talks too much, but in this case what Mikel has done has basically brought the two sides together. He was peacemaker, and I can't lie to you, well done Jonobi. Now let's get into the news, right? Before we get into the video, what do we have to do in the Kavkas View? You wash your hands. You come to the house, you go straight away, you wash your hands. So hit that like button. Hitting the like button is the best way to support this channel to grow so that more people see. We're aiming for 1,300 likes on this video, so in the comments below let me know what number like you are, and then let's keep it stepping. Subscribe if you're new as well. Let's get started. Look, I want to get through the Boehly and Boehly news first, because I think that's the most important when it comes to the future of the football club. Because at this moment in time, we are at a crossroads. Whether we're going to go towards the way of going with Todd Boehly, or whether it's to go with Clearlake and the investment fund, I don't know what's going to happen. But what we can do is gather the information, analyze it, and be objective. I see lots of individuals taking the information and putting their own spin on it. What I do on this channel is different. I'm going to take the information, give it to you lot, then I'm going to give you my opinion. And then it's your choice whether you listen to my opinion and agree with me or disagree with me. But you have the cold hard evidence of what the source says first, and then you hear my opinion. I'm not going to direct it in a way where you form your opinion purely based on what I say. However, I am going to give you my opinion because this platform is about me giving my opinion on the club that I love. So let's get started on what the Athletic have said. Those of you that don't know what's going on, Todd Boehly is unhappy with the amount of power he has within Chelsea Football Club. He owns 13% of the club. He's unhappy that Boehly and Clearlake, who have 61% of the club, have more influence than him, because that wasn't the original agreement based on my understanding, right? This man believes he's entitled to more power and more influence on recruitment policy. Now we need to talk about what's happened and what the Athletic have said. The Athletic have said, and this is very interesting, that Todd Boehly wants to have an approach where they hire experts. They almost have a president of football. This individual is head of the table and will decide things going forward. And only the biggest decisions of all come up to Boehly, come up to Todd Boehly. And the reason why this happens, then when they vote, it's a fair vote. And they have one person in charge of football. Clearlake, on the other hand, want a micromanaging system, according to the Athletic. They want Boehly basically to overrun things, and the other two sporting directors to feed into him. This is very similar news to what Ben Jacobs was saying and other sources. So all of a sudden, all these sources are coming out with very similar stories. And finally, a source close to Boehly said that Boehly is apparently obsessed with the idea of trading players and the idea of moving players on for a profit. When it comes to, you get a player, you flip him, balance the books, and make the profit look even more wonderful. Now it's time for my opinion. What I'm going to say to you is be very careful with what you read and what you listen, even on this channel. And the reason I say this is because everyone has an opinion. You can give 20 people extract to read. 20 people will take it in a different perspective because of the way that their mind works and the way they read. You can send 20 text messages and 20 different outcomes could come due to the way that someone read the tone. So in this case, what it's trying to paint in this Athletic article, in my opinion, is that Todd Boehly wants to have this whole meritocratic system where the head of football basically decides everything and only the big things come up to the top. Boehly is bad because he's trying to orchestrate everything. He wants to dabble with his hands. What I'm going to say to you lot is how I would feel in this situation. If I owned a business, 61% of it, and I had to answer to an investment fund, right? To people that have put me in charge of their money. I would want to be involved in that business as much as possible. I would want to know the ins and outs of that business. I would want to know the decision making of that business. Is it the right way and the conventional way to run a football club? No. The conventional way is what Todd says, right? You have a sporting director, the CEO, their head of football operations, they run it, you're the owner, you leave it alone. However, we had Roman Abramovich involved for years. Roman Abramovich was Iqbali. He was involved, and after a while, he stepped away, and what he did was hire Marina Garaskaya. And Marina was essentially Iqbali. So we need to be very careful when we pick sides. And then the source that spoke about the fact that Todd Boehly is, Iqbali is obsessed with trading players, that makes sense. We've seen this, but at the same time, that's not a negative in the way that it was being portrayed, in my opinion. So we need to be very careful. We need to be very hesitant on who we put our chips into and who we trust, because the reality is, and this is my opinion, we don't know what Todd Boehly's manifesto is. We don't know what Iqbali and Clearlake's manifesto is. We know together we've had a better transfer window this time around, and they're learning on the job. There's less investment in younger players and more investment into the current day squad now and into the near future. So they're not planning for 5-6 years in advance, they're planning for next summer. So the reality is, I think we need to take a step back. We need to focus on what's going to happen on the pitch after the international break's over and see how this plays out. I'm not here to say Clearlake is bad. I'm not here to say Blueco is bad. Todd Boehly is bad. Because the reality is, I actually think there's an asset in having both of them. Because if both of them are in the table, yes, there's a little bit of conflict of interest, but at the same time, there's people holding each other accountable. And once Chelsea start winning, both parties are going to shut up and just get on with the job. Purely based on the fact that once Chelsea start winning, more money's coming in, the more expensive the club gets, the better for everyone. Trust me, this is just a bad period. We will be fine. Now I want to talk about Victor Osimhen. You lot know I love Victor Osimhen, right? You guys know that I adore the player. Well, not really, but I think he's a good player. I think he's a great player. I just don't think he's as good as a lot of you lot think. But what has happened in this summer was Chelsea basically couldn't agree terms with him, and a lot of people took their own narratives. Some people said he was greedy. Some people said he shouldn't have caved for less money than he believed in. And these are the three things that John Obi Mikel on his podcast, where he came out with so much detail, and I'm actually so proud of Mikel, because normally Mikel comes out with nonsense, right? He'll say stuff with no evidence. This time around, he came out with so much detail that you know he's not lying. One thing for certain is Mikel's making a healthy bag. And when I say a healthy bag, I mean he's getting paid serious money. Whether it's going to be from Osimhen's camp or whether it's going to be from the Chelsea camp, good on you, bro, because you deserve it. Based on what Mikel is doing, he deserves it. He's bringing both camps together. He defended Osimhen in the interview. He defended Chelsea and gave Paul Winstanley the best resume you could ever ask. The review, yeah, I'm telling you now, my mum doesn't speak as highly about me as the way Paul Winstanley was spoken about by John Obi Mikel. And finally, he gave us detail. What was said and what happened. He said both parties came to the table. Both parties wanted this deal to happen. Victor Osimhen came to the table. He wants to play for Chelsea. He didn't say wanted to, he said wants to play for Chelsea. He also said Chelsea were very keen on signing this player. Both parties compromised where needed to. They reached an agreement in terms of compromise, but they ran out of time on minor details that broke the deal down, whether it was paperwork and medicals, and more importantly, the minor little minute details. This is coming from John Obi Mikel. For me, this doesn't make sense purely because if they agreed on stuff, Chelsea have signed players before without medicals. And you know Victor Osimhen is healthy. Like, you know this. You've seen him play recently. So I don't understand why the deal didn't go through. And based on what he's saying is the 300k net is nonsense. It's not true that he wasn't asking nowhere near that. But he also said he knows his value and he wants to be paid like the best player that he is of Africa and the best player that he is of Nigeria and one of the best players that he is of the football game as a number 9. And for me, I've said this on many occasions, you're worth what someone is willing to pay for you. When Napoli paid that money for Victor Osimhen, he was worth it for Napoli. When Galatasaray paid the money they're paying for him now, he's worth it to Galatasaray. Evidently, he wasn't worth that money to Chelsea. And whether that's Chelsea's loss and Victor Osimhen's gain or loss, We don't know. Furthermore, what he also said was both sides left the table on good terms. Both sides are in a good relationship. Both sides are very optimistic and both sides are very positive about the other. He also went on to say that Chelsea and Victor Osimhen know what it takes to get the deal done, and whether it happens in January or whether it happens in the summer, if they both decide to come to the table, they can get this deal done very easily. For me, this was very interesting because the fact that Mikel is saying this so publicly, he openly said he wanted Victor Osimhen at Chelsea and he was putting pressure on him. He also said he told him to sack his agent, and he also said he wants to still make him a Chelsea player. What I'm going to say is, take this with a pinch of salt. This does not mean Victor Osimhen will be a Chelsea player, but what this tells me is there's a very good chance Victor Osimhen is going to be a Chelsea player come either January or next summer. Mikel is doing too much talking. He is doing too much relationship management. He is publicly changing the narrative. He was so positive about Paul Winstanley. He said Paul Winstanley is a good man. He wants Chelsea to be good. He said Chelsea's approach is different now. They want to make sure that they're winning and the players they sign is the right profile rather than just signing players for the sake of it. He said Victor Osimhen is passionate, he's proud, and he deserves to be a Chelsea player. Look, I'm going to tag in the video on my community page. I've already done that. So you guys can go and watch the full video in detail. But if you want more explanation of what's happening with Blue Coat and Chelsea and the whole dismantling of our club in front of our eyes based on what the media wants you to say, it's over here. I've broken it down, impartial, unbiased. Go and check it out. Let me know your thoughts. And like I said, we're aiming for 1,300 likes. Hit that like button on your way out.